Hello, my name is Denise Williams, your host of Financially Focused. And on this program, we are always on the journey to help you strengthen your financial table with 4 strong legs. Yeah? So we're looking at asset accumulation through long-term savings. We're looking at income in various different ways. We're looking at protection, which is debt management and insurance. And we look at mindset. And in this journey of strengthening and making sure your table isn't weak, we're going to dissect the different parts of the 4 legs and bring on the experts. Now, we're going to jump into the area of entrepreneurship because, of course, that's how you make some money, bring in some cash. However, the thing with entrepreneurship is there are a lot of regulations and compliance aspects of it that may not be as sexy as all the memes on social media with the side hustle and the boss lady and all of these different kinds of hotness and niceness about entrepreneurship. There's a responsibility. And to talk to us about one aspect of the responsibility is Mrs. Judith Ram-Logan, attorney at law and manager of corporate services at the Jamaica Stock Exchange. Welcome, Judith.
Thank you so much for having me, Denise.
Okay.
Happy to be here.
Yes. So we're going to talk about, might not be the most fun topic in the world, but it is very necessary if you want to keep your business open. True?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So the topic is beneficial ownership. And this is one of those topics that, as I said, not sexy, but important. So important that if you ignore it, you risk your company being closed down and losing that income stream. And we're all about building. We're not about losing. So, Judith, talk to us. What is beneficial ownership?
Well, beneficial ownership is really about the persons who either ultimately own the company,
right,
or who are in control of the company.
Okay.
So when we're talking about ownership, we're talking about shares.
Right.
The person who owns the shares,
right,
or the person who can direct certain company decisions,
right,
like the board of directors, the CEO, the CFO, the CIO, right? That is what beneficial ownership. Either persons who are in control or persons who own shares in the company.
So really what in this aspect, we're saying who runs the business, who's really in charge.
Right.
Because there may be some power behind the scenes,
yes,
some puppet
masters
causing problems.
Right.
And so you need to declare,
yes,
who is the real boss man and the real boss lady,
right,
of the company.
Yes.
So, okay, why do you need to understand this concept? Why should I be bothered?
Why is it important?
Whose business is it?
Okay,
really?
Right. So the world then is more aware of the fact, has become more aware of the fact that sometimes companies are used as vehicles for money laundering, mm-hmm, or terrorism financing.
Okay.
So, there are rules now, and, the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force,
okay,
is
FATF,
yes,
Financial Action Task Force. And where are they located?
I think their head office is in France.
In France,
right?
Okay.
But they have, so they monitor companies, right? Not businesses. Because businesses, the legal definition of business is really a business name. How you operate your business using a particular name other than your own. Okay. That is what a business is, but a company. Right?
No, stop. This is a big, big, big point. Mm-hmm. We walk up and down every day using these words interchangeably,
yes,
and not recognize. So let's stop here.
Right.
On my journey to earning more income, mm-hmm, growing personal development, I need an important definition. So you're saying a business, mm-hmm, is a name, yes, that I trade with.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
yes,
if I give my name Palm Tree Enterprises, it's just a name, and I'm trading as Palm Tree Enterprises.
Right. That you're trading as.
But if I have a company,
right,
which is different than a business,
Yeah.
A company is a legal entity, completely
separate from its owners.
So a business is not separate from the owner.
No.
A company is separate from the owner.
Yeah.
This is an important distinction because we're walking, I'm a businessman, I'm a businesswoman. We don't know what that means.
Well, being a businessman or businesswoman, you just conduct business, right? So you can conduct certain kinds of businesses in your own name, right? Or you can use a name other than your name.
Correct.
Right? And so what you are saying is that I conduct my business in this name, right? But the thing is that you and your business are one and the same.
Right. So when I stop, the business stops.
Yes.
So that's the difference. So, so in my building of my side hustle, boss lady life, right?
Yes.
I need to recognize that if my business ends, or if I change my mind, I don't want to be a boss lady anymore, I want to go do farming, the business ends.
Right. Yes.
So now that we have two different worlds, now we have to say, okay, there's a particular way we have to treat with the company.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. Now go ahead.
Right. So
back to this organization in France, Fat
the
F.
Fat F, right?
Yes.
So they have found, that organization has found that a lot of money laundering and terrorism financing, right, is passed through companies.
Okay, so stop there. So you're saying that those kind of bad persons we see in the movies, right, that shipping in all kind of not nice things, you're saying what they do is they go in and put on a suit and tie and a nice dress, and they set up a company to hide what they're doing.
Right. Yes.
Okay, so they...
Because remember, the company and the person not the same.
Okay, so I have...
So they can hide behind a company.
Oh, so I have like 1,000 AK-47, that's but I then put on my suit and tie and go sit in a coffee shop and pretend that I'm a nice business person, but I have the 1,000 AK-47 illegally ready to sell.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. Right, and then the company would sell the AK-47. So you, the owner behind the company, wouldn't nobody could trace the guns to you.
Right.
Right. Until now.
Okay, because before I would just sit in a coffee shop very innocently.
So but until now.
Now what happened? Tell me now what's happened.
So now, the legal, so there's a difference in law between legal and beneficial.
Okay.
Right? But previously in law, when it came to companies, didn't bother with the beneficial owner. Or you assume that legal and the beneficial owner are one and the same. And they could be, but sometimes they're not one and the same. They're separate. So what the FATF is saying, we want to know not only who is the company legal owner, but who is the company's beneficial owner, because they might be different.
Right. So I may hire my sister to run the bakery while I'm shipping the AK-47. Right. So now so now Fat F has basically partnered with countries around the world to say, we need to know what's really going on. Okay,
right.
So what are the consequences to business owners if they do not comply with beneficial ownership regulations?
Well, they could get into serious trouble.
And okay, explain serious. Right. Is it a smack on the wrist? What's serious?
No.
Okay.
So there are fines and there are penalties.
Fines and penalties.
Right, you could there are heavy fines.
Oh.
Right, like in Jamaica, there are $3 million penalties.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
And sometimes that is just because you have not updated your beneficial ownership information. Right? You're supposed to file it every year. You haven't done so in 2 or 3 years.
Right.
That kind of penalty the company could find itself subjected to that kind of penalty.
Right.
There are criminal sanctions as well. So the directors or the shareholders could be arrested. Right?
Wow.
So
fining and
there's
confining.
sanctions,
Wow.
there's sanctions, there's restrictions.
What kind of restrictions?
So sometimes because like in Jamaica, if you don't file your beneficial ownership information, the company could be struck from the register, right? You could not be able to trade, if you're a public company, not be able to trade your shares on the stock exchange. So those kinds of heavy penalties and restrictions, right? There is reputational damage.
Right.
Right? Because, this beneficial ownership regime is all about transparency and accountability.
Right.
Right? If your stakeholders feel, that you're not giving the information you should be giving, right? There could be damage to your reputation, right? Negative publicity as well,
right?
You don't
want the media to find out.
Right, and then there's increased scrutiny because if you don't file your beneficial ownership, the regulatory authorities will put a spotlight on you, right, to make sure. And I just want to say that is what happened with Jamaica as a whole. When we were put on the gray list, there was increased monitoring to make sure that we complied with the beneficial ownership regulations.
Right.
So, and it can go down to the company level as well. Right. So you have to make sure that there are ongoing audits, ongoing inspections, investigations, heightened monitoring to make sure that you are filing your beneficial ownership information on a regular basis. So it's annual.
Yes.
And if there are any changes, you are supposed to inform the registrar of companies.
Judy, this just sounds like so much work. I really can't be bothered. Let me just be honest.
Okay. All right. But what it means though is that, it might make you lose business opportunities.
Ooh,
right?
It just seems so harsh.
It's harsh, but it is needed.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And you should make sure, you should realize that, you could lose business opportunities, so you can't secure financing.
Right.
Right? So people might not want to do business, certain other companies might not want to do business with you.
Right.
Right? Because you're beneficial, when they do their due diligence, they see that you're delinquent when it comes to your beneficial ownership information and that kind of thing.
Okay, hold on now, though. Let's stop right here. Outside the fact that I just really feel like this is too much and I cannot bother, what other challenges do business owners face with being compliant? Because it seems like you have to be on the calendar, you have to be on the clock.
Yes, you have to be, right? So, the thing is that, gathering information is hard.
Yes.
Because in Jamaica, I think people tend to be very secretive about certain matters.
Yes.
So gathering the information, and gathering accurate information. Not just information.
Stop you right there. Fact F is in France.
Yes.
You're talking about Jamaica, but it's
Jamaica,
around the world.
Yes, it is around the world because Jamaica, a lot of other countries have signed on to that.
Right.
To bringing beneficial ownership. Well, it's not as if we had a choice. We had no choice, right?
Right.
Because remember the threat about locking us out of the international markets. That's a real threat.
Right. So the countries who don't sign don't have access.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is just bigger than me building my financial table. This is actually a global push.
Right. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
So let's go back to the challenges. So, all right. So I have to give in.
Right.
And do it. But do I have to do it?
Nope.
Okay.
There are people who can do it for you.
Okay.
Right? But I want to go back to tell you some of the other challenges.
Okay.
So,
sure.
Gathering information, verifying it, making sure, because you are supposed to provide accurate, up-to-date, and timely information. Not just any information, but accurate and up-to-date, right? So you have to do that. You have to verify it, right? Sometimes, companies have complex infrastructures or structures, so finding out who the beneficial ownership is who the beneficial owners are might be kind of complicated because you have holding companies and you have trusts and, so those, and if you're changing the ownership structure, you're supposed to report that as well.
Oh, so for example, if it's a family business and the father is retiring and the son or the daughter is taking over, that would be something?
Or suppose, in not so much in Jamaica, but in other countries, they have a lot of trusts, right? Trusts owning assets, trust owning companies, that kind of thing. So that makes, sifting out information about the beneficial owner complicated, right? So we talk about the confidentiality and privacy concerns because people don't want certain things to be public, right? Their ownership in certain ventures or so. They don't want it to be public. I can assure the public in Jamaica, though, that the beneficial ownership registry, where all this information is stored at the company's office, is not accessible to the public.
Okay.
Right? So you don't need to worry that your name would be gone abroad then, because it's just not accessible to the public.
Okay.
Right? Okay. It's accessible to only certain authorities that you call competent authorities.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So the only.
So are we sending the information to France?
No.
Oh, okay.
Where it's right in Jamaica.
Okay.
But there's international cooperation. So international cooperation. So if a crime is committed in France then, and it's through a company that's registered in Jamaica,
right? Then
the French competent authority could reach out to the Jamaican counterpart and get the information. So it's at a high level.
Understood.
An ordinary man just can't walk off the street and say, "I'd like to know who is the beneficial owner of this company," right?
Okay.
So, the administrative burden, that is a problem, right? That is a problem because, there are time and resources required to provide this information, right? Ongoing monitoring, because you have to file your beneficial ownership information every year. If there are changes during the year, you have to. There's a timeline within which you must file the changes. Right?
But boy, that administrative burden, I mean, sounds like you should outsource that work.
Yeah. Yes, there are people who can outsource that work for you. If you don't have, and especially for smaller companies, if you don't have somebody who you can say, whose only duty is to monitor BO information, you should outsource that work.
Okay. So we're still working on the challenges because it seems like a lot.
Right. There's also legal and ethical risks, right? Because you don't want to, you shouldn't be seen as hiding information, right?
But what if I'm hiding it from a spouse? I have a husband named Jason. I don't want him to know that I own some companies, right? Because he may get ambitious,
right?
And I don't want that,
right? So you can have.
Yeah, but what happens? How does beneficial ownership work with that? How can I hide stuff from a spouse?
Well, if you are the beneficial owner, we're focusing on you.
Oh, not my spouse.
No,
so Jason won't find out.
No.
Okay.
Right. And then there's also corporate resistance to transparency.
Yes, there is.
Companies just they're reluctant to give any information.
The staff knew how much they were really earning, then that they're gonna push for more money.
Yes.
All right.
And also, the regulatory environment is changing.
Yeah, but I'm a small businesswoman. That seems like a lot.
Yeah, it does seem like a lot. Yeah. Unfortunately, the beneficial ownership requirements go for whether you're a small, medium, or large company.
Wow, small, medium, or large.
Yeah,
wow.
But the thing though is that if you're a small company, then you should have a very simple. Very, very, very simple information to provide. Right? Just beneficial ownership. So as I said, beneficial ownership, either you're going to look at the shares held in the company.
Yes.
A beneficial owner is one who owns at least 25% of the shares.
Right.
Or you're going to look at who controls the company. Right? So sometimes the beneficial owner owns and controls, like with small companies, right? Other times you might not have any beneficial owner who owns any shares, but you will have a beneficial owner who directs the company. So either the board of directors or the CEO or the executive director, right? But I want to tell people, companies always have a beneficial owner.
Okay, so there's no way around it.
No way around
So if it's my mom giving me instructions that she's the beneficial owner, I just work there.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. Overcoming the challenges. Because to me, it sounds like really and truly you overcome by just complying.
Yes. Yes.
It's like just one answer, just do it.
Right. Yeah.
But I know it's more to it than just do it, right?
Right. Well, as I said, you have to, the record keeping
Yes.
must be, precise. It
Yes.
must be, you have to give adequate, accurate, and timely information.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. Okay.
So,
So give me an example of that. What documents or records should, business owners keep to ensure compliance?
Right. So you should have ID. Well, actually, the first thing you should do is to have what you call a know your customer. So have information
About
on
your customers?
No, on your beneficial owners. Have information, so ID, right? Where they live, right? Where they work, those kinds of things, right? About what how they are beneficial owners.
Right.
So is it the shareholding? Do they have 25% or more? Or do they have control? So is it the CEO, executive director? So you should always have information. So maintain your accurate records, right? Understand the ownership structure, the control structure. So so if you had, so I have a company and you have 25% of the share, you hold 25% of the shares in the company, you are beneficial owner. But if you transfer those shares, so you have 10%, you are no longer beneficial owner. Right? So you have to, the ownership structure, you always have to be clear.
Yes.
And when there are any changes, then you have to say, okay, you have to be always in your mind, does this person, if you had the 25% and you sold 15, so you're gone down to 10, is this person still a beneficial owner?
Okay.
Right?
All right. Now, what is the long-term value of being compliant? Other than you don't want the people in France coming after you.
But the long-term value, right, is that it is a very important part of corporate governance.
And corporate governance, if you are small and you want to get big,
right,
then corporate governance is part of the deal.
Right. Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And if you are big and you want to get bigger,
international.
You want to get international.
Right.
You want to be global.
Yes.
Corporate governance. Can you imagine the beneficial ownership department for Facebook and Google and these Apple and these big,
they have big
giant
departments
companies?
for that.
Can you imagine? Wow. Because they probably have to file in many countries.
Yes, they do.
But I'm a hairdresser.
You're a hairdresser.
Yeah, I'm not Google, I'm not Facebook.
You still have to file. If you have a company,
you
have to file.
Right.
But then, of course, your filings wouldn't be as complex or complicated
as Apple.
Right. Yeah. Right. You still have to file. So, but your filing would be a simple filing.
Yeah.
Right. So the long-term value.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I have one shop as a hairdresser, maybe I want to have another. Or maybe I want to have other locations to grow my revenue as a hairdresser.
Right.
So I would need beneficial ownership filing to facilitate that growth, right?
If you are, if the vehicle that you're using is that of a company.
Of a company, right.
Because you can have growth, but as a business.
Right. And we're back to the difference between a business and a company. I think that's a big, yes, we agree, we have to do the beneficial ownership documents. For me, though, the big takeaway is the difference between a company and a business.
And a business.
Yeah. Well, you're an attorney. You're laughing at me because it's a big thing.
No, I am laughing because there are so many people who make that, who just use business and company interchangeably.
Yeah.
Right? So I guess I am trying one person at a time to say, listen, there's a difference.
There is a difference.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Mrs. Ramalogan, thank you so much.
Yes. You're so welcome.
Yes. So my name is Denise Williams, and we have been in the world of beneficial ownership. And it's really important because the first question, do you have a business? Are you growing the income leg of your financial table? Are you growing your cash flow with a business or a company? And if you're a hairdresser, if you are Apple Computer, if you are Jablum Coffee, and it's a company, you then need to have compliance. And Mrs. Judith Ramlogan, attorney at law and head of the compliance unit at the Jamaica Stock Exchange, took some time with us to explain why you need to file the beneficial ownership documents every year, why you need to keep good records for every year, why changes in your company must be registered, and this will help you grow because you don't want to be struck from the company's office. You don't want to have the consequences of being fined or jail time or having your company removed, because then you're just gonna stop growing. And believe me, it is hurtful to have part of your income gone for something you could have not happened. Yeah, you could have avoided. So I want to just really thank you for tuning in with us. Be sure to visit our website, www.financiallyfocusedmedia.com. Check out our free 30-day financial independence course. My name is Denise Williams, and I will see you again in the next conversation.